Time is produced by John DeSando. Listen to the shows and read reviews online at wcbe.org.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Linda Baas McClelland.
And this is It's Movie Time.
Indeed it is.
Now, Linny, almost 50 years ago, a movie that I have never forgotten is called Harold and Maude.
Indeed.
Right. Any reason why I might remember that over those 50 years? You guess?
It's very funny. It's very clever. I don't think people truly appreciated it at the time it came out because it was made right during the height of the Vietnam War, and everything was very anti-establishment. And I don't think a lot of people got the humor of it right at that time. But then it became more and more popular as it aged. It was first released in 1971, right?
Right. And you know, you had in the late 60s, The Graduate and Easy Rider. So you had some of that counterculture stuff going on.
Yeah.
So it's not like people weren't, it's just that they were probably pretty tired of all the problems that we had in the 60s. In the 60s, right, yeah. So 71, they're looking for a little relief. And Harold and Maude, directed by Hal Ashby, who also did Being There in Shampoo and The Last Detail. So some of my favorite films.
Was this one of his first films?
It's a good question. I don't know that.
Yeah, I can't remember. I might have read that.
Yeah, I think he went on to do those. But anyway, right. Anyway, the important thing here for me is the stars.
Right.
And were they impressive for you?
Bud Cort plays Harold, and he's a morbid, baby-faced, privileged 20-something, is obsessed with death. And he even transformed, I think it was a Jaguar, his own car, into a hearse.
Sure, yeah. And he bought a hearse initially because he liked to go to funerals out of people that he knew.
Right, exactly.
And so he's about 19 years old, almost 20.
Right.
Boyish as heck. Vacant look in his eyes.
Very vacant, that's perfect. Yeah. There's no expression on his face at all. And the first time we meet him, he's walking through his very ornate living room and staged hanging himself in front of his mother, who was on the phone, and she just doesn't pay any attention to him at all. Obviously, he's done this many times. Like floating face down in their swimming pool, and she just swims laps by him and doesn't take any notice of him at all.
I love her reaction to him. I suppose you think that's funny, Harold, when he's hanging.
Yes.
He's hanging himself. But I mean, that one of the motifs is death in this film.
Right.
Even though I think people like to think of it as a reaffirming of the goodness of life.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of the film is about their obsession with death.
Mm-hmm.
And the real memorable, even though Bud Cort is very memorable, is Ruth Gordon.
Oh, indeed. Had she been in Rosemary's Baby yet?
She was, and she got the Oscar.
Yeah, she won an Oscar, and she was her nosy neighbor.
Yeah.
But Bud, playing Harold, meets Maude, I know, at a funeral, because it's kind of his hobby to go to the funeral. Yeah, of strangers, and she does the same thing.
She amuses herself.
Yes.
Okay. So we have the meeting at funerals.
Yes.
And you have that motif carrying on. Plus, you also have Harold short-circuiting his mother's attempt to get him married.
Definitely, yes. And he and Maude become very close friends. And but where he represents death, she represents life. And she's just full of all kinds of fun and crazy stuff. But my favorite scene in the movie is when she's speeding and a cop pulls her over and talks to her, and all she does is apologize, and then she drives right off again. And then he catches up with her. She jumps out of her car and steals his motorcycle.
And this is Tom Skerritt in disguise. He actually has a different name in the list, but he's became a well-known actor. He does a superb job with this. Again, he's officious. He's the establishment, and she and Harold are taking some poor blighted tree to the forest to plant it. It's
Right.
typical 70s kind of attitude.
Oh, boy.
And she's actually, Ruth Gordon's actually 75 in this, but she's pushing 80 in the film.
Right.
Yes, so she's about ready to go to 80, which is a transition point for her.
Uh-huh.
And back to, you talk about your favorites. I have two favorite scenes. I mean, I have so many that are favorite there. First of all, when one of the girls that Mom has selected for dating and perhaps for marriage is there. He's outside, he waves to them, he has a sheet over him, and he sets it on fire.
Right.
He immolates himself. And then I always love inside of Maude's railroad car. There's so much.
That's right. So much stuff.
So much going on. I mean, this is a very tight little place,
Right.
but yet somehow it feels like it's the world. And what I love there is when Harold gets one of her contraptions and is able to smell snowflakes in New York. And this is just complete whimsy, just fantasia of living.
Right. She has a true love of life, which is complicated by the time you see that she has a concentration camp tattoo on her arm.
Some would, there are some critics who don't favor that little shot. It doesn't bother me at all, but because I do think it gives you some background, but some think it was a little, I don't know how you would call it, but they thought it was a little bit outrageous to cut to.
Well, it was just such a quick glimpse.
Yes.
You know, and how did she become this woman who just grabs onto every enjoyable moment in life and creates them for herself and for other people?
And when you and I were watching it again, I caught myself laughing out loud, which I rarely do in movies, meaning comedies I'm the toughest on, and I find myself chuckling more than once at this.
What was your favorite scene?
Well, I guess I've already said those, and that's a really tough question for me. I guess the ones that I love the most are the highly satirical of the wealthy class.
Right,
Vivian Pickles is just terrific as Mrs. Chasen. She's completely out of it. She's hoity-toity, and she's trying to jam her son into normalcy when there's no way that kid is going to ever be normal. And so I love Mom because she's just clueless.
Totally.
Throughout. So all of those little scenes with the girls. But one of my favorite would have to be with, what's her name now? Candy. Nope. No. Sunshine Doré. Ellen Gear plays Sunshine Doré. She's an actress. And she's the only one of the girls who's able to go nose to nose with Harold.
Right.
They do a Harry Carey scene.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that was very good.
And Pickle and she's right up for it. It's just great.
Right.
Any other part of this film, Lenny, that is memorable, besides what we've talked about?
Well, the scenes, these crazy scenes, are backed up by the soundtrack done by Cat Stevens.
Exactly
and
what I was thinking.
She's wonderful. Or is it a he or she?
Yes. It's he. He.
Very, very good. And it's perfect. Sets the perfect mood for all this crazy stuff.
If you want to be free, be free.
Yep.
If you want to be me, be me. If you want to be you. Throughout, it is one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard for a film.
I agree with you.
Not only are the songs lyrical, I love Cat Stevens.
Yeah.
Morning is broken for many of you.
Oh, yes, that is.
But I love the fact that it also comments upon what's going on. And generally sets the spirit of it, which is liberation for the two of them.
Right.
It sets that tone.
And also why two people are drawn together. I mean, here he's 20-something, she's almost 80. And why are these two, I believe they are falling in love.
Yes, they do. I love you, Maude.
Yeah, that's right. And it's just an interesting commentary.
And you bring up the point that helps me in this, is that actually it doesn't make any difference. It's just two very different people. One 19, the other 79, going on 80, and yeah, it's a fabulous notion. It's a terrific conceit. It's highly improbable, and yet she and he make it probable
Mhm.
when you take a look at his home life, when you take a look at what little he has in his life of any
Right,
significance.
right.
And then she brings it to him.
She brings him to life.
Yeah. And putting that together with the Cat Stevens, and I like the ending as much as I like anything. If you ask me what I really like, I like the ending. I think it's a, without disclosing it, I think it's a neat twist.
Yes.
And there's a lyrical part of that as well. Even though throughout death has been a motif, there's an affirmation of life, don't you think? Penny?
Affirmation of life, that's exactly what this movie is, I think.
Yeah. So it's Harold and Maude, Linda Baas McClelland. What grade are you going to award it?
I'm gonna give it an A.
And you knew that I would give it an A since it's my absolute favorite, and we have to dedicate this show to my daughter Thea,
Yes.
who claims that in seeing this at about 8 years old, that it sparked her lifelong interest in movies, and she became a professional.
Yeah.
And she claims that it was this.
Right, I can believe that. Let's go find a motorcycle and ride off into the sunset.
Wish I hadn't sold mine.